TJ with Tech Made Easy. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my video on AAA gaming at 60 frames per second or higher in high or ultra high mode for $300 to $350. The way we're going about doing this today is we're buying an existing workstation. This is one of my most favorite versatile workstations, and this is the HP Z420 professional workstation. The reason why I like this workstation is this is a little bit different than, say, an Optiplex that so many YouTubers get people into, is that this is a professional workstation that they use for doing video editing, AutoCAD, animation, high computations, and so the amount of CPUs that are available to run in here, there is just a plethora to run in here. In fact, this system here takes the E5 2600 version 1, version 2, and the E5 1600 version 1, version 2 Xeons. If you've never heard the Xeons before, Xeons are Intel's professional workstation server CPUs. Not all Xeons are made the same though. You have to know which Xeons to get for gaming. And so, but in this particular system, and the thing that I like about this system as well, that I'm excited about, it has an upgrade path. Where if you get an Optiplex, there really is an upgrade path to an Optiplex, plus you're limited to your power supply, what cards you can run in those systems. In this system here, you can pretty much run almost every modern day video card in here. You can eventually upgrade this system to what's comparable to an i7 8700K. Okay, I'm just going to interrupt for a sec. As you can see, we're using a pre-built system from HP. The reason why we're doing that is because it makes it a lot more affordable to buy this system at $150 than I could buy the components brand new, but it would cost us more, and we're trying to reach a system for around $350. Now, I do have another video coming up where I'm transferring the components from the HP case into a gaming case. So be sure to subscribe and like and hit the bell notification so you catch that video as it comes out. And the gaming case you can use, I'm going to have a couple of different models starting at $40 to $60. But again, this gets us in a gaming case. Maybe later on, if you want, spend an extra money, you can transfer the components. Or if you don't mind the look of the HP, you can just keep it that way. It makes it easy. But my kids, on the other hand, they like the look of the gaming cases, and so we're going to be transferring our HP into one of the gaming cases. So let's go ahead and get back to the video. Okay, I just mentioned the i7. There's an upgrade path to the i7 8700K, something compatible to that. So I actually have a part 2 of this video where I'm going to be showing the benches on 4 different CPUs and 4 different video cards, so that you can see a clear path of upgrade ability to the system. There are other video cards that you can run in here. I just limited it to 4. So be sure to click the bell icon so that you can get that video as soon as it comes out, or it's possible I may have that video ready by the time I produce this one, so there might be a link down below at which you can watch that one as well. Also too, I failed to mention that this does have a 600 watt power supply, and that's why it does allow some flexibility with the video cards you can use, along with the different CPU path that you have with this system. And then as far as pricing goes, I'm going to go over pricing a little bit more detail, but basically the system is usually $150, includes shipping and handling. Now it can be more expensive than that, but if you look, you usually can find one for around $150, sometimes cheaper, and that comes with 16 gigs of RAM with the E5 1620. And again, it may come with a hard drive, but it doesn't matter in this particular system, because this price includes a 500 gig SSD drive for $50, and then there's a fan and a few other parts, and that adds up to about $350. So 130 for the card, for the video card, 150 for the system. Anyway, we'll go into that more depth later on. And then part of the reason why I have part 2 is I actually show how to replace the CPU in there. And if for some reason you can't find a system that has an E5 1620 in it, or you want something more powerful than that, then that's another reason why I have part 2. But I'm going to be demoing CPUs that range from $20 to about $100. So let's get back to the video. But to keep the price low, to get into our entry level AAA gaming, we're going to be looking for a used HP Z420 with an E5 1620 CPU. There's a popular CPU. There's still plenty of them out there that have them in them. With 16 gigs of RAM, a lot of these came with 16 gigs of RAM, sometimes 32 gigs of RAM, because they're the professional grade workstations. They also came with 600 watt power supplies. And so that's why I'm excited about this system. It's just a great overall system. Now there is another system that I'm going to be doing a video series on, and that's the HP Z440, which takes the version 3 Xeons. But you come in at a little bit higher price point with this. This is a great one for an entry-level machine, and also that allows you some upgradability in the future. So the system here, usually used, will cost around $150, including shipping and handling. The 2 video cards that I'm recommending with this, and I'm doing 2 options. One is the RX 580. The other one is the GTX 1650 Super. And there is the 1650 non-super, but the GTX 1650 Super is one of my favorite entry-level cards. It just does a great job for an entry-level card. And so we'll be looking at the benches on both of those, but if you like AMD, or if you want to go down the AMD route, then that's why I'm also showing the RX 580. And you can get these cards, both of them used, for about $130 from eBay. I don't talk about the RX 5500 because most of the time those cards run over $200 or more. Let's go ahead. Oh, and this particular video is an overview of this system. I have a more in-depth view for those people that are more novices that have never installed a video card, a hard drive. I show them how to install the video card, the hard drive. I show them how to go to eBay, how to find the deals on eBay for both the video cards and the system. And so it's more of a DIY, hands-on video. There is a fan that you have to install in here that's real easy to install. There's nothing to it. So if you want to check out that system, you want a more in-depth view of this system, click on the link below. I don't install Windows in that video, but I have a separate video for installing Windows. There's a link down below on installing Windows on this system. And then also too, if you're interested, there is 4 utilities that I believe that every gamer and content creator should have. There are 4 free utilities, including MSI Afterburner. And then I also have 2 video links down below showing how to overclock the GTX 1650 Super and the RX 580. Those links are down below as well. But let's just go ahead and open up the case, do a quick tour of the system. I know that this is a pre-built system. It doesn't have the bling that maybe a new one has. But as far as value goes and getting into a system that's totally upgradable down the future, this is a great system to get into. So let's go ahead and open up the case. We'll look at the benches, and then I'm going to talk more about this system comes in version 1 and version 2. And why you would want the version 2. You can go ahead and get version 1. It's just that you're limiting yourself to what CPUs are available to put into the system. If you get a version 2, then there's a plethora of Xeons to put in the system, but you have to know which Xeons to put in the system, which ones are good for gaming. Not all Xeons are good for gaming. So let's go ahead and open up the case. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to take a quick look at the computer. And again, as I mentioned before, the reason why I like this system, it's very versatile as far as an upgrade path. Again, there is a limitation, like I mentioned, when you start getting into the new high-end cards today that have just come out. But most of your other cards you can put in. This is what I like about the system. It's got three USBs in the front. One is version 2. Two of them are version 3. And of course, you got room for CD-ROMs and whatever else you want to put here. There's a reason why this is one of my favorite systems, and that's because this is one of my favorite systems to make a home server out of as well. But let's just go ahead and open it up. So let's lay this down. Let's open it up. So one thing you're going to see in here, now these will generally come with a video card, but a video card that's in them you won't be able to use for gaming. But there's a lot of room in here to put different cards in here. I've actually had my 1080 Ti in here testing it out. This is the GTX 1650 Super that I was talking about. This is the RX 580, and you'll notice the size difference. Even though this is a smaller card, it still outperforms this RX 580, and I think a lot of it has to do with the memory and the CUDA core count. And then also too, I mentioned that there was going to be that we'd be installing a hard drive. So in this one, we have our ADATA hard drive right here. Now you'll notice right here that I actually have an M.2 SSD in here, and the reason why I have an M.2 SSD in here is I load all of my games on here just because I have so many that I test. So I just use the SSD drive as my Windows drive and some programs. But the reason why I pointed this out to you is that it won't boot from an M.2, but at least you can put one in and you can install programs to it. So again, obviously here's the CPU and fan. It's got a fan keeping the memory cool here. There is a module that goes on here that helps suck air. I don't have it on right now, but you've got 3 slots for hard drives here. Really convenient. But now the one thing about this particular system is that you have to add a fan to it. So you'll notice down here, the cable management in this system isn't the greatest, but there's a fan right here that I put in. And it doesn't matter that it's not right up against the case here. It still blows the air out, helps keep this cool. This particular so this system actually stays pretty cool even though it's smaller. As long as you have this fan here, even with the 1080 Ti in here, you're talking 70 degrees Celsius or lower on temperatures. And so same with the CPU. What I usually do on these, I'll go into the BIOS and I increase the fan speed by 2 notches. If I wasn't gaming, I wouldn't do that. But since I'm gaming, I do that just to help keep the CPU a little cooler. But the reason why I wanted to show you the inside is how much room you have. You can move these cables around. You could even put this fan further back and get a fairly decent sized card in here. So in my video 2 series, I go ahead and swap out. I test about 5 different CPUs, about 5 different, or 3 to 4, maybe 5 different cards, just to show you the performance of the different cards in here. And so, but this is basically quick rundown of the case. It does take DDR3 RAM. The reason why I like that is that DDR3 RAM is cheap. So if you want to upgrade, if you find a system with 16 gigs on it and later you want to move to 32, it maybe costs you $40 for another, or not $40, maybe it costs you another $20 for another 16 gigs of RAM. So that's basically just a quick tour of the case. Of the back is pretty simple. You've got 2 USB 3s back here, 4 USB 4s, and then your network, sound card, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and go to the benches now so that we can see what the benches are like with the GTX 1620 Super or 1650 Super and the RX 580. Okay, one thing I failed to mention, this right here, most of these HPs come with this handle. And instead of this CD here, this would be sitting here. And so if you want, this is also a place that you can install your SSD drives. There, you just click your SSD drive into here, no screws, and then just slide this back in. So that's another place that you can put your SSD drives in here. This one, I took it out for a couple of reasons. I wasn't going to use it. But anyway, most of them, not all of them come with this, but I would say 80 to 90% of them do. We're going to go ahead and look at the benchmarks on the RX 580 and the GTX 1650 Super.
I want to talk about the games that I tested. I tested CSGO. I wanted to test some esports games and some AAA games, so that's why I did CSGO, Fortnite, and then getting into the AAA games, World of Tanks, GTA 5, Far Cry 5, and Tomb Raider, and Assassin's Creed Origins. So really quick before we get into the benches, the 1650 Super, obviously that's the one I've talked about that I prefer for the system, and you'll see in the benches that you just get a little bit better performance out of it than the RX 580. And so again, then we have the RX 580 as a choice. I didn't talk about the GTX 1060. It doesn't give you quite the performance as the others do. But you could, this is an option if you wanted it. The other one that is an option is the RX 5500. It's just hard to find this card. Usually you have to pay over $200 for this card, or at least $190. And so, but I did find a great deal on this card just the other day. I went on, and that's the thing about eBay is you have to really kind of look all the time. I found one of these for $155, so I just snagged it right up. You don't see that price on these very often anymore, especially because it's a new card. So let's just get into the benches, and what you're going to see here at the Super, CSGO, of course, CSGO in high and ultra high mode always performs well, and you're well into the 200 frames per second in the gaming here. You should be over 200 in Fortnite in Pro mode. 100 frames per second in high mode and 75 in epic mode. Again, these can fluctuate depending on where you're at in the game. But World of Tanks, I just use the auto benchmark, and I always just bench that in ultra high mode. So we got 115. So GTA 5, we're looking at 99 frames per second and ultra 78. And then in this, you're going to notice here that I have OC. That means I overclocked the card. There's no overclocking over here, but because we're trying to get 60 frames per second or higher in AAA gaming, these are two cards I would definitely overclock. You do get better performance in it, and sometimes that varies. Like Far Cry 5, you see that we only got 2 frames per second higher. And we're at high mode, 1080p high mode here, 72, then 74 overclocked, 69 in ultra, and 71 in overclocked. But in Lara Croft Tomb Raider, you can see we got a bigger difference. We went from 71 to 78. And in high mode and ultra high mode, 70 to 74. Now, Assassin's Creed is one of the harder AAA games to play, and there's most of the AAA games that you play, your frames per second are going to fall in this realm here. Your esports games, I included those so you can see those here. Most of the esports games, you're going to be looking at 150 to over 200 frames per second. But as far as your AAA gaming, most of them are going to be in here. There are some harder ones where you may be in here. I know in Red Dead Redemption 2, I get around 60, a little higher than 60. With just the defaults, the default mode it comes in. But the RX 580, oh, and just so you know, I didn't do an overclock on the Assassin's Creed. I wouldn't run Assassin's Creed in ultra mode with these cards. It's just such a hard game. I would just always run it at high, and if you wanted to, you could turn down some of the settings and get and see if you can get more frames per second that way. The rest of these, though, I was just using the high and ultra high defaults. Same here. So moving over to the RX 580, you're just going to notice, especially in the AAA gaming, your distance on your frames per second is going to be higher, but you'll just notice that the 16 Super just does a little bit better job in performance. We get down here to our AAA gaming again. We just get a better performance, but still we're at least in the 60s with the RX 580, and I overclocked here as well. And again, you'll see a better performance in overclocking the card in Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Again, that's just going to depend on which game you're in, on how much performance you get out of overclocking the RX 580 as well. Assassin's Creed, I was kind of surprised this time. I have gotten higher, more into the 50s with the RX 580. I don't know if it's driver or just Assassin's Creed updates, but the frames per second are dropping. So here we've dropped below the 60 frames per second with the RX 580. And this is, again, one reason why I favor the 1650 Super. Just again, an overview of the system. I just really, again, like this system just because it gives you a lot of flexibility. I'm going to talk real quick, though, about two other computers that came out at the same time that were competitors to the HP. You got the Dell 3600 series and the Lenovo S30 series. They take the same CPUs. Now, this is very important. When they came out with these, they came out in 2011, but they didn't. They had took the version 1 of the 2600 and the 1600. In 2013, they came out with the version 2. Where it took the version 2 of the 2600 and the 1600, but also that backwards compatibility, so version 1, version 2. What was nice about Dell is, and again, you'll get the same performance out of these systems as you do the HP. You can use the same Xeon CPUs. I just favor the HP. We do have some Lenovo's, by the way, that my kids game with. But the reason why I bring these up is that it is another option if you're looking at price, and maybe you can get the Dell a little cheaper than the HP or the Lenovo. Sometimes you can get really good deals on these Dells, but this is what you need to know about version 1 and version 2. In the Dell, once they came out with version 2, and when I say version 2, where they're offering the version 2 and the Xeons, they changed the model number to the 3610. So the 3610 takes both version 2 and version 1. So when you go look on eBay, you just type in Dell T3610. Then you know you're getting one that takes version 2. And again, the reason why we're looking at version 2 is because your upgrade path is a lot more flexible because there's a lot more CPUs to choose from. And so their T3600 was version 1 only. Lenovo never changed the model number. And so the only way that you can know for sure that you're getting a version 2 system is that when you type in Lenovo or HP, that you put in a V2 after you put in. So I'd be typing in HP Z420 V2. Then I know for sure I'm getting a V2 system. Just because they don't say, just because these the HP and the Lenovo, if you go look them up and you don't put in V2, and just because they don't have a V2 chip in them doesn't mean they don't take V2s, but there's no way to tell. With the exception of if you see a Lenovo with the USB 3 in the front, then you know it takes a version 2. Not all of them, like I said, put version 2, but HP, there's no way to tell unless you put in a V2. I have bought these workstations before, and it was a version 2. And there is one way to tell. The motherboard will be the motherboards are 6 digits, so if it starts in the 700,000 range, then it's a V2. But not all of them put down which motherboard is in there, or the model number of the motherboard. That is one way, though, that you could find out if you wanted to message the seller. And again, the 600 watt power supply is important. These came with a 400 watt power supply and a 600, so you also have to make sure that you're getting the 600 watt power supply. The Lenovo and the Dells both came with 600 watt power supplies as well. Dell's, I think, is a 650 or a 700 watt power supply. So really good, the pricing. You should be able to find, and again, timing's everything on eBay. You could go on there and you won't find a system under $150, and then a week later you'll go on there and there'll be some systems for $150, because people do ask more than $150 when I say that I'm talking shipping and handling. So you might be able to find one of these for $90, but it might be $40 or $50 for shipping, or it might be $150 includes shipping. So $47 for the ADATA SSD 500 gig hard drive from Amazon. The graphics card, your goal is to find one for $130. And again, sometimes that's hard, especially right now. Man, prices on cards, even the ones that are being auctioned on, are crazy. People are paying crazy prices. But like I said, like I mentioned before, I found that RX 5500 for $155. I bought my I actually bought my GTX 1650 Super for $120, but it is hard to find it. So you may end up paying $160. Hopefully you can find. And if you're patient, hopefully you can find one for $130. So there is a fan that I showed they put in. Again, that's $11, $6 for the cable. So we're up to $344. This doesn't include taxes. Taxes are different for each state, but all these prices here include shipping and handling. And then on the RX 580, you need a cable, 6-pin to 8-pin. That's $9. Some of these systems may come with a Windows 10 on it, so if it does, and when you go to install the new hard drive, it should recognize the machine, and you won't have to. But if you don't, then there's $15. You can usually get a Windows key for around $15, and I'll have a link down below where you can get one of those. So really quick, these systems come with a lot of different CPUs, but again, one of the more popular ones was the 1620. These are some of the others they came with. If it does have these in them, when you go to look at them, they probably will be asking for more money for them. But the nice thing is, the one thing in the 1620, that's the minimum chip that you want to do AAA gaming with. But if you go beyond a GTX 1650 Super, the RX 580, or a 5500 RX 5500, then you will need a different CPU, and that's one reason why I have my version 2 or my video 2 series, because I go over the different CPUs. But these are ones that you may see in the system, and with either version 1 or version 2 in them. Let's talk about the video cards. This system, this is what I was talking about, the flexibility. Now I didn't put in any of the cards that are of lesser value in here on the AMD or the NVIDIA side, just because this is the minimum that you would want to put in for AAA gaming. If you don't AAA game that much, then you could go with a lesser card and save some money. But these are the cards that you can run in the system and shouldn't have a bottlenecking problem. Again, it's going to depend on which CPU that you match it with, though. And so again, that's why I have my video 2, is I go over the different CPUs, the different Xeons. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the more modern day cards. You won't have a problem running the RTX 3060 or the Super. Now I have these marked in blue here. The reason why is the RTX 3070 more or less runs about the same as the the RTX 2080, and both of these cards here, it's not that you can't run these cards in there. It's just that you're going to start to see bottlenecking at this point. Now, I'm not saying a lot of bottlenecking. I've ran the 2080 Ti. You have to, again, have the right CPU. But even then, if you're going to run these cards, you may want to go to a different platform, or go to the X99 platform, which would be the Z440. And I am going to be having a series on the Z440 as well. But again, just realize you start putting these in, you will see some bottlenecking. In some games you will see bottlenecking, and some games you won't. But definitely with the RTX 3080, the RTX 3090, the RX 6800 and 6900 XTs, you'll want to go to a different system. The RX 6800, you should be fine running it as well. It won't bottleneck too much, but the rest of these, again, these are maybes, but the ones in red, you're definitely going to want to put into a different system.
So as you can see why I'm excited about this platform, why it's so versatile, why it's a great platform to get into if you haven't got into gaming before and you want to get into gaming and maybe don't want to build a system, one that you can just put in a video card, maybe an SSD, and get gaming. It's just a very flexible platform that's affordable, easy, and practical. Now this is the X79 platform that takes the version 1, version 2. There is the X99 platform, which also is another platform that I like. And in that platform, HP has their HP Z440. And that is also a great platform. You pay a little bit more for it. It's a newer platform. You have a little bit more flexibility on the higher end CPUs on that one that you can use with the latest modern day cards. And so be sure to click on the bell notification, subscribe and like, so that you can get all of my upcoming videos. And be sure to check out my part 2 of this video, where I show the different CPUs starting at $20 to $100 that you can put into the system and what cards to run with them. And the reason why I made that one also is sometimes you may not be able to find the system with the 1620, or maybe you can find one where you're getting a better price on it, but it has a lesser CPU in it. And so that way you can just buy the other CPU for 20, 30 bucks, stick it in, and you're gaming. Really quick, I just want to mention the GPU market. It's kind of crazy in December 2020 right now, just because of all the new cards that have come out, and the shortage of those cards has actually put pressure on the used GPU market. People wanting to get into gaming, so it is getting a little harder to find a good deal on the used market. You still can find those good deals, but take for instance, a friend of mine wanted me to build a system for him, or get one of these HP systems for him, and he wanted it right away. And so I ended up having to pay $160 for the GTX 1650 Super instead of $130. So hopefully you can find a deal out there with patience, but it is a great time for getting into gaming. There's so many options when it comes to GPUs. Again, thanks for coming to the channel. I hope this was helpful. Have a nice day and happy gaming. This is TG with Tech Made Easy.